Okay, so welcome back to the Passionate Pioneer podcast with my guest today, Laura Mitchell. Hi, Laura.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We've just had a quick catch up about 2024. What a year it's been for everybody. Well, you know me, you know I'm Beth, and this is my podcast. I am the Passionate Pioneer. My motto is Empowered Women, Empowered Lives. So let me introduce my guest today. Laura Mitchell, a journey of healing and transformation using voice medicine magic. From shattered dreams to a symphony of healing, Laura's journey is a testament to the power of the human voice. For many years, she has explored the transformative power of music and mantra singing and how these ancient practices can be applied to modern life. Whether you're seeking healing, inspiration, or simply a deeper connection to yourself, Laura's message of music will resonate. Join us now as she shares her groundbreaking voice, excuse me, my voice goes, groundbreaking voice medicine magic and reveals how to use your own voice as a powerful tool for transformation. Wow. I can't wait to hear about your story and your journey because that bio is amazing.
It's quite the introduction, thank you.
Right? It always blows me away when I read the introductions. You know, my guests are blown away by their own introduction, and I am too. And I'm like, I can't wait to start this story. So I'm going to start with the first question, Laura. And it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek question. And it's what initially sparked your passion? Did you always know you wanted to pursue this dream, or was it a journey of discovery?
Mm. Well, so my journey is, I'd say it's like two-pronged, and it's the two prongs have always been there. So I was always hugely linked into the spiritual world. As a youngster, just was able to tune into everything all the time. It kind of freaked people out a little bit. And I was born into music. So I did Eurythmic, Kodai, danced, did everything, from and when I say dance, I don't mean actually trained. I can't do that, but freestyle from a very, very young age, of around about 2 or 3. And then I picked up the piano, I picked up the violin. I've always sung, I was always really loud. And so for me, music was always such a great joy, and it was always based around delight and sharing and group music. And then it was just wonderful. I was very, very lucky to have parents who really supported that and nurtured it and sought out incredible experiences for me. On the spiritual side, I would say that probably got just shut down quite. I kept that to myself for many, many years, until I met a very dear friend of mine, Michael Mead, when I was 15, and he took me on as his, I guess, student, as it were. So it's always been there, and it's my passion, and I don't actually know anything else, and I'm not any good at anything else. So there was no other option.
And I like the fact that you're just like, my spirituality, I kind of kept that quiet. It's like, I mean, you were quite lucky in the fact that you knew that, music was your passion. That's what you wanted. That was because most of us, when we finished school or university, we did degrees or whatever it was that we went on to do. We're still not really sure what should I do. And it's a question a lot of young people have now. What can I do? And so I suppose you were really lucky that you found this mentor at 15 and you started
Yeah,
your
for sure.
journey.
There's so many more options now, aren't there? I mean, there's just the world has opened up in a way that it just, showing my age, wasn't when I was young.
Just,
So,
just quietly over there. I'm just a young slip of a girl, really.
definitely young. Inside, I'm very young.
Absolutely, yes. I was saying that today. My mind still thinks I'm 30 something, and I am. I'm not telling.
Yeah, absolutely, the way it goes.
So it
Yeah.
was definitely a journey of discovery then. So, but obviously to from where you were to where you are now, because do you want to tell us your story?
Okay,
What
sure.
happened?
So I was at music college as a scholar, age 18. It was wonderful. It was a complete eye opener. That's a whole nother thing. And I pursued that passion for, gosh, 23 years. And I had a wonderful time for a very long time, traveling globally, and singing, which was fantastic. I did become quite aware at times that I was not listening to certain messages that were sort of screaming at me, but I decided that this was the only thing that I could do, and I was just going to do it, and that was the end of that. And I'm quite determined. When I put my mind to it, I'm very, very determined. So I had the vision of what I perceived to be success, which is like a real key, and I pursued that with total devotion. And after sort of, I'd say several, maybe 6 or 7 warning signs of, being uneasy on stage, or the, for me, growing anxiety and sort of stage anxiety that was getting more and more the more I was doing, and the more sort of higher profile jobs that I had, the more pressure there was. I was always one of the leading ladies, so it was, you know, high and hard work in opera. But I loved it. Fundamentally, I loved it, and I actually couldn't do anything else. Also, I thought. And then I think over a period of years, I started to begin to notice that it was getting so much worse that I was having sort of out of body experiences whilst I was on stage, which is somewhat unnerving when you've got thousands of people looking at you.
I would say so, yes.
I'd say so. But alongside the opera career, I was also developing my spiritual side. So I studied with 2 of my favorite people who we may get to talk about, I'm not sure. And I studied yoga, mindfulness, meditation, mantra, amongst other things. But I was deeply into those practices and they are what got me onto stage, because I needed something to calm my nervous system down. I needed to completely reset. So the 2 things worked really well for a time, until I got really into meditation. And I was following something called the Lam Rim path, which is like a 10-year path to enlightenment. And it's very, very intense. And I was on year 3, and I was getting to such a sort of focused point that on stage, when I was focusing that much, it was beginning to become a little bit akin to meditation. And so things would get a bit confused, and I'd just sort of like zip off, or just be like so expansive that I wasn't really aware of what I was doing. And I had moments.
Truly is an out of body experience, right?
It really was. And so if you're on stage, I remember this one moment, and I was singing the aria, like the big notes and stuff, and I was just watching myself, going, wow, look at that person. And watching the conductor going, where the hell are you?
Right.
And then like slamming into my body with such force that it was just like, whoa, what's going on now? So it became a growing issue, and then the anxiety increased. So from there, I started to get much clearer messages like, no, please, let's not do this. And I kept not listening, kept taking the big roles. And then, unfortunately, I had a stage accident, which, these things do happen. And I was very badly hurt, so I couldn't walk for a period of time. And I couldn't sing above a certain level, because the voice gets trauma. And it had happened when I was singing high notes, so I couldn't get that anymore. So this was when everything started to come together. I mean, there were other things, but I'm trying to just not go into too much detail. But so this is when things started to come together, because I was completely incapacitated.
You said accident, and I'm just like, well, you didn't listen for a long time, so they had to send
Yeah.
something to sort of stop you in your tracks, right?
Yeah, well, it definitely did. And at the time, I was living in Wales, and I just, I just couldn't move. My muscles weren't connecting. La 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 la. And I set about trying to rehabilitate myself because for whatever reason I wasn't able to get medical help. And that was the beginning of the path. So I then had to apply the teachings, and those came in thick and fast. So the mantra was extraordinary for pain relief, but also for keeping my mind on something other than, oh my God, I can't move.
Right,
And I
right.
can't sing and I can't do anything, and everything's falling apart. And then, so my partner at the time was very good with like physio exercises and things and sort of resistance training. So he was working with me with some resistance training to try and get some of the core lower abdominal muscles to link up with the rest of the muscles, which just wasn't working. So this was a very, very slow path. And I am an impatient person, or rather I was really impatient back then. So there were so many teachings that were given within that space because I literally could do nothing. So I meditated. I used the register that I had, like the lower register, and I started humming. I was working on going through some of the Dr. Joe Dispenza and the Bruce Lipton techniques at the time. So I decided to combine the two, and I literally spent my days using sound and finding sound and really recreating vibrational harmony within my internal system, to begin to reconnect physically and also spiritually, because what I found was that I was I was at opposite ends. There was a part of me that was just so disassociated with what was happening. So I kind of had to bring a part of my soul back in, and then work with the grief that comes with, losing a beloved, which for me was like, I knew that this was a turning point. I wasn't quite sure where it was going to go. The long and short of it is that happened. I, by some amazingness of all these practices that I've now put together, managed to get myself back up and going. And I didn't go back onto stage for a bit, and then I was pregnant, and I still had troubles walking a little bit and a lot of pain. And my darling son, forever grateful to him, during birth, one of my lower vertebrae that had been just it popped out and was trapping a nerve in the lower spine. It sort of went ka-tonk and went and went
It
back
went
in.
back in. Wow.
And everyone was like, what the heck was that?
It's not a normal part of
And I just said,
a
thank you,
birthing
child, thank
process.
you.
But I love that you said the amazingness of, I would say the amazingness of you, Laura, because, obviously you were determined, as you said, very determined. I'm the same. I call it sometimes stubbornness, right? It's just, but in a good way, but used in a positive way. You can use it not in a negative way. I mean, obviously, and you were determined to heal to heal yourself, and the fact that you'd already got the music background, and we know now, as you've learned over the years, how sound healing is the most amazing way of healing your body, and it sends, do you know when you get those moments where you just get the hairs on your arms, your whole body is like, it feels tingly. That's how I experience sound healing. It's like the whole my body is like going
It's extraordinary because this is the thing, right? I began to realize that this thing that I'd always just had it, and I didn't take it for granted per se, but it was just natural, was profoundly healing. And I hadn't been using it in that way, not on purpose, but certainly in this period of, lying on my back rather a lot, I was tuning in a lot with my guides, and also just getting incredible information as to what I can do to physically help myself. And, I just find myself doing really interesting sounds, moving like little parts of my body and connecting and energy, just working with everything I knew, all the tools that I had set that up until then, just I was just being shown what to do with them. So linking parts of the body energetically, surgery inside of myself, that kind of stuff, and really making sure that every part of me was a part of the healing. And the vibration that I found, and I love sound healing, I love giving sound baths and going to them and everything, but what I found is the most extraordinary thing, and it's not really that extraordinary when I think about it, is your own voice. Your own voice is the most potent healer that I have ever found.
Is that
And
right?
yeah, so when I listen to somebody's voice, I can tell a lot about that person. People say the eyes are the window to the soul. I'm like, no, 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 no. The voice, the
No,
vibration tells you everything you need to know.
that's
If
strange.
if you know how to listen.
Strange.
Yeah, isn't it just?
Yeah, because the sound of people's voices, it's true, we're drawn to the sound of people's voices. That's why, there are people on the radio, when I was younger, and I was like, there's some that I really like their voice and others that I just don't
Yeah,
like, don't like the
absolutely.
sound of their voices. But it's something about the way that they draw you in. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know. That's interesting. That's very, it's a so
yeah,
so tell us more about that then, the voice, and how you, if you want to, if you want to
absolutely.
go down that rabbit hole.
No, no, it's fine. What exactly do you want to know?
I don't know what when you say, you can use your voice, and I know that there are certain sounds that you can make
Yeah,
to calm your body, calm the nervous system. You can make this or
yeah.
shh
There are
or
loads of, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. There are loads of sounds that are like that, and the ones that are documented. And obviously, all of the major traditions have got their sounds, and there's a reason for them. There's a reason that the words are used. They're like sort of little that they involve seeds that when you open your mouth and you start to make the sounds, even if you don't know what you're doing, they will still have a potent effect because of the vibration that they have. And then it gets even more. I mean, I'm a total voice geek.
Well,
So
that's exactly why. And so you've got a
yeah.
platform here. So tell us about it, because
So,
the
so
audience are going to be really interested in this because they can heal themselves and use their voice.
exactly.
And it does, it's this is why you're here, Laura. So tell
I
us.
know. So I started testing it out with other people and include, doing groups and this, that, and the other. And it has eventually led to voice medicine magic. But the the fascinating thing for me is that, there are people that say they can't sing, and there are people that find it really difficult to use their voice, even just to speak, and there are some sounds that are just universal. Hum,
Yeah.
ahum. There are loads of them, but it doesn't matter if you can or can't sing. If you can think, you can say them silently if you're not wanting to hear your own sound just yet.
Mm.
I've gone on a tangent, but because what I actually wanted to say was this: every single person is made up so completely differently. In all the different countries and all over the world, there are different types of cheekbones, different types of soft palates, different types of teeth layout, jaws, brows, skulls, resonant cavities. Everything is so totally unique. And what
Fingerprints. I always go back to fingerprints.
yes,
Everybody's
exactly.
absolutely different because we all have our own unique fingerprint.
Yeah, and you
How
just have to
amazing
look at
is
like
that?
Freddie Mercury. I think I might
Yes,
have
he had the most
Freddie
incredible voice because
Mercury.
he had an extra set of incisors,
I
didn't he, or
know,
something,
and
right?
just you look at the shape of his jaw and the size of the mouth and the just extraordinary, and he also had technique, which helps.
Yeah,
But
obviously.
it was effortless sound for him. So everybody can find this incredible ability to make a vibration, whether that is taken internally as more of a thought, or whether that is taken externally as an actual sound. And everyone's going to make a different sound. So there's absolutely no point in trying to universalize anything. So for me, what I've realized is that we can do mantras. They're all going to be amazing. They're going to have incredible effects. But then taking it to what I would call a completely different step is beginning to learn how to relate to your body so that you know what sound you need. And
Like
your
a
body
tuning
knows.
fork, like a tuning fork.
You become so finely tuned to yourself that you know how to transform blockages, you know how to shift energy, you know how to read a room, you know how to listen and know what is and what is not right for you, or who is and who is not right for you, just by the sound, just by the frequency of the person. And you can get it to being so subtle that they don't need to make a sound.
Wow.
We've all had that, a vibe, right? You walk into the room and there's a vibe and you're like,
Energy
oh,
doesn't lie. I just wrote an email about
energy
that to my
doesn't lie.
subscribers. Energy does not lie. You can just feel it.
And this is a really powerful and very direct way of accessing your own, what I call like your own orchestra or your own symphony, your music of the spheres inside of your own system, so
Nice.
that you are whatever it is that you want to be, whether that's impermeable, or whether that's super confident, or whether that is just harmonious, or whether that is returning yourself to, vibrant health. Whatever it is, there are so many options. It's definitely the quickest and the most profound way that I have found, and I did a lot of training in different respects, but
And you've also got a lot of experience because you did it yourself, right? You put yourself, you walked the walk.
and there
Yeah.
are so many things that you can do, which is where I come in is being able to listen to what somebody's doing or read what they're doing and say, okay, have you tried this? And maybe give them like a slightly different way of thinking about using the tongue, or maybe looking at the jaw, or maybe it's more about making a physical movement, or perhaps, because I like to intuit sound, giving them a specific sound to work with. And just beginning to kind of encourage that process. And yeah, I mean, I've developed an incredible mechanism of doing that, which just takes people systematically through and teaches them to do it themselves. Because that's really what I want them to do, is to
Right.
be able to go, amazing, I can do this myself now.
Well, you're
Don't need
empowering them.
somebody
You're
else.
empowering them, right? You're empowering them to heal themselves.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
fabulous. That's fabulous. Yeah, as an English teacher, I remember doing all the sounds. That's just the sounds of English, and that is the same. It's maybe it's similar, but it's the same. The way that we make the sound. And I always used to just make, I always say English is like exercise for your mouth because because some languages they only do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
languages only this, right? English is both. I always say it's like exercise for your mouth.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Yeah.
for your face even.
It's amazing, isn't it? I
Yeah.
remember doing a Russian opera and having to learn it in Russian. It's just like the amount of things I had to do with my tongue and my jaw, and and it
Yeah.
was really like so profoundly like round the heart and the depths of it. God, I was just like, like literally making faces like this as you're singing, because
Right.
that's what the language requires.
Right. That's how to make that sound, right?
Yeah. And their way of using language is reflected in the sound, which is just a whole nother tangent.
Right.
So, yeah,
That's fascinating though, isn't it? It's fascinating. So that's obviously part of your voice magic
yeah,
that you do. So you've gone from this, from a opera singer to now, choosing the spirituality and choosing, to do this voice magic. So tell me about these, well, I can say challenges along the way, but you've obviously already explained some of those, and that's the way that you healed yourself. So let me ask another question. Let me ask you about role models, because obviously when you were learning about on this healing journey, it was quite a number of years ago, and sound healing, it was probably, we were touching on it, but probably not really speaking about it like we are now.
Yeah.
So who were your role models and like support network when you were going through all of this?
I had two fantastic teachers, Dr. Kathy May Carels and Dr. Nilam Taneja, both mindfulness, yoga, and mantra. I am going to be really honest. I mean, I learned so much from them over the years, before and after the accident. But in the period where I was, incapacitated, I'm a bit of a lone wolf, and I just battened down the hatches. I didn't ask for help at all.
Is that very British, do you think? Do you think we just do that because we're very British?
I don't know. It just felt really private. I've got, like I will talk to anybody about anything, and there's a part of me that is super, super social, but when it comes to me and something that's so, I mean, I was absolutely devastated.
Right.
I mean, that wasn't the end of my career. I did then go back after I'd given birth, and I had another round in the ring, which had has another, wonderfully dramatic end. But I had both times, the first and the second time. I think I had a little more help the second time because I also had a child. But the first time I really did just close in and go, right, how does one get out of this intact and healthy and vibrant? What do I want? Why has this happened? So it was very, very, very introspective. The only person that I really spoke to was my partner at the time.
Okay. Because you can go, can't you, victim or victor? You can sit in the shit, really. You can sit and just moan and go, oh my God, the world is terrible. Everybody hates me. Or you can go on this turning around, right? And obviously, that's what you did. And you said there's the second round. We won't go into that.
Okay, that was okay.
You were already on this healing journey, and then you went back for a second. Oh, let's try that.
I was like, I'm healed. I'll go back and sing again.
Right.
It was fun.
So Laura, what about like doubts or fears on this journey? Because we've always got that. You closed down, you started this healing journey, and then you started your connecting with spirit more and learning, and sometimes that can be a bit daunting as well. So tell us about the doubts and the fears and how you overcame them.
Well, I will start by saying that I think I've always had almost crippling doubt about my ability, and even when I look back at it now, I'm like, whoa, wow, gee whiz, what? Why would I think that? But at the time, self-confidence was always, a thing for me, and I would probably overcompensate by making it look like I was confident, but actually inside was really a balancing act, as it were. So for me, that I don't know that ever goes away, if that's sort of just part of you, but it's definitely something that I hold now in the great sphere of everything that I hold. And the fears that I had was that I was not going to be good enough, that I was never going to be good enough, that I wasn't good enough, generally speaking. Which for somebody who was doing what I was doing is bonkers from an outsider's perspective. I look at it now and go, what? But there are overtones of that throughout my entire life. I was very gifted as a kid, and I probably got a bit sort of big for my boots around about one age, and then got like completely knocked down by one of my besties just going, dude, what are you doing? You're being really cocky. And I just thought I was like stepping into my awesomeness. But that one word sent me right, right back in. So it's something that I have worked with along the way, and that I relate to in a very kind way now, because I realize that actually that's just a little part of me that needs some love every now and then. And I'm not saying that I'm without fear or anxiety or anything like that. It comes and it goes, and when it comes and I see it, I try to be kind. And I have a different way of relating to it. Whereas previously, I would go right in and be like, "Oh God, I'm the worst person in the world," and it would all be, horrendous and acted out. So um, I think over the years, that's definitely, yeah, it's definitely matured, and certainly with
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
the practices, there's a
I
there's a
think
depth
don't
of
think
what
fear
goes.
ever disappears, does it, Laura? Really, it never disappears. You just learn how to how to conquer it,
Yeah,
and you understand that you've just got to go and you've got to do that, or but there is this underlying tone, I think, throughout humanity at the moment. There's just this fear and this um not good enoughness, and lack of confidence. I think it's just, we're lots of so many women that I speak to, and they're all similar stories. They just felt there was that one moment in time. I had the same. I was bullied at school. It's just, you know, but you kind of have to sort of step back
yeah,
and look at it and say, okay, well, that's just one person's view.
yeah. I mean, I think for me, the thing about um, fear and success. I mean, I think everything coexists all the time anyway, and then it's just wherever I choose to place my attention, it's going to either grow or not. And I can give it some attention and give it some kindness rather than giving it some attention and like building it up and berating it. Um, but for me, the big turnaround for me was when I realized that my success was not like success for me is not what it used to be. So
Right.
that's success. I
Well,
have a
we
new
do define success. How do you define success? It is one of my
exactly.
questions, actually. How
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
define success? Because it's different for everybody, right?
yeah, and I have a neutrality around it now. Whereas before, in order to be, successful, I had to be the best. Never did I stop and ask myself what that actually was. What is the best? What does that? I never asked that. I just had to be the best. I just knew I had to be the best. No, and then at some point, and definitely at the accident, both the things that happened, there's a huge actual addressing this sense of self that was not real. And by doing the techniques that I was doing through using sound and yoga and mindfulness and energy medicine, I began to realize that you know the truth is so very different and so very vast. And it's something that I had touched upon in my younger years that I knew, but I grew out of because I wanted to be someone. I wanted to make it. And I've heard this so many times. I just want to make it. And I was like, well, what are you making? Like Lego? What are we doing?
Right. Yeah.
And
I'm
it's
in.
fascinating. I'm in for Lego.
Mm.
But it's interesting because I've got an album coming out in December, and it's the first thing I mean, I wrote it and it's beautiful. And my friend Mark did some co-writing with me, and it's prayer and devotion, and it's the first time I've produced something and gone, actually, I'm just going to let that go out there, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
Instead of going, this has to be this, it has to be that. And I'm not saying that those didn't come in as well. They did. It was just like, oh, and then I was like, okay, let's just bring that back a step and have a little look at that. Um,
Give it some kindness.
yeah, give it some kindness, and it's such a freedom to be able to say, okay, great. My off you go.
letting go of the result, isn't it? It's
Somebody
letting
likes
go of
it,
the
I'm
result.
happy for them.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. It's like sometimes I feel like, well, maybe if I started my podcast, I'd just be talking to myself. Well, okay, I'll just talk to myself. Maybe I'll just it'll be a
that
podcast.
would be quite an interesting show as well.
Yeah, just me, myself, and I
Answering your own questions. I love it. I'm going to ask you.
answering my own questions. Yeah. But in fact, it didn't turn out. But I just let it go. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to start it, and obviously choose a topic that I'm not going to get bored with, obviously. And it's just grown from there. But it's about, letting go of the fear, letting go of the result, giving the fear some kindness
Yeah,
and saying, well, I tried,
exactly.
right? And
Exactly. Yeah.
that's a big difference, isn't it, Laura, with the making music and producing it, because you're combining the two now. And how was that experience?
I love being in a recording studio, and I love writing music, and I love producing it. I say I produced it. Mark did the production side. I do a certain level, but he's an absolute wizard. So it's also something that I was terrified of for years. It was a real sticking point. Like I'd be in a band and they'd be like, "Oh, can you just plug this in?" I'm like, "No, I might break it. Don't let me touch it."
The world blows up.
Yeah, yeah. But now it's much more different. My dear brother came over and showed me how to use all the equipment a couple of years ago, and he did little videos and was like, "This is how you do this, and this is how," and it was lovely, and it was such a
Oh,
nice experience. I was like, "Oh, that's not so bad. I mean, it's just a plug essentially going into another plug," and he was like, "Yeah." So the experience has been liberating for me because I have always written music and never had the confidence until maybe, 5, 6 years ago to sing my stuff. And I remember going to see a friend of mine up in Scotland who I was at music college with, and I'd written all this stuff and I'd been away in New Zealand, and she was like, "Oh, I'd love to hear it." She's an incredible bassist, and I was like, "Nope." She's like, "Come on, we're besties." What? And I was like, "No, I can't. I
I'm
couldn't
not a
possibly."
performing monkey.
She's like, "I can't. I just can't. I just
Can't do
can't."
it, can't do it, can't do it.
And it's a fascinating experience, and it's really nice to have experienced that because now I know what it feels like for people who just can't. They can't either express themselves in words or feel like they just go to sing and they're like utter terror. Um, so yeah, so that's been a process for me too, working through that. And it all links beautifully into, voice medicine magic, and that has been a labor of absolute joy and
Right.
love, which, it's a 6 month online course, and it takes you through 3 levels. You don't have to take all of them. But it's also runs alongside its sister course, which is Liberate Your Voice.
I
And
like
so
that. I love that. Liberate your voice.
yeah, it's wonderful. So I run that with George Hardwick, and we kind of do that one together. Um, but it's just such a wonderful, wonderful feeling to be able to work with people because because of the years in opera, because of knowing how to find the absolute optimum sound for vibration, therefore vibrational healing. I can see people and just say, "Oh, okay, just try this and try that," and they're like, "Whoa, that's completely different." And I don't even need to see them. I can just listen to them and go, "Okay, well, maybe try this in your left shoulder, maybe your left hip here, and join this to that and make this sound." And it's something which I never
Wow.
ever thought was a thing. And it is.
Yeah, well, even even just speaking for me was because after the trauma, with the bullying at school, I mean, I completely not lost my voice. I mean, I could still speak, but I did lose the confidence. I lost the confidence in my voice, and it took me many years to get it back.
Mm.
And think that my voice was important and my opinion was important and I was allowed to speak, right? And then doing this podcast has just my
Amazing.
throat chakra just went
Ah!
right. Yeah, freedom.
Yeah, I love it. That's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's amazing how common that is as well, actually. When we were doing Liberate Your Voice recently, it was so many people, and we were doing these practices for practicing a yes, practicing a no. What does joy look like? What does this look like? And, here's how we're going to work through the blockages. It was phenomenal, really wonderful to see people becoming empowered and then teaching them how to work with their own system,
Do
you
you
know?
find that there's overlapping stories, like with blockages? Obviously, some trauma point in the past, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
But
that's
so
that's what
many people have
normally.
been silenced as children or in anger, or terror, Um, so many. And so many people have been told that they can't sing. I'm like, why would you ever do that to someone? I just don't get it. Um, I've got a wonderful student at the moment, and he's like, I can't sing, and I was just like, okay, well, should we start? What do you want to sing? And he was just like, I really like this, and I was like, but I can't sing, and I was like, okay, well, should we try? And he's like, yeah, I'm really up for trying, and then he opens his mouth and he sings, and I'm like, you can sing. We did some work and worked on the tuning because he wanted to be perfectly in tune, but and that took a little work, so training him to his ear to listen and work in alliance with the vibration so that it was
Oh
in
yeah,
pitch, whatever pitch we were in. That was a thing. But he's sailing now, he's having a great time. Yeah, he's singing his little heart out.
that's fantastic. So you see that it's just so you're giving them the confidence as well, aren't you? Giving them a voice.
Yeah, yeah, it is exactly that.
You're
You're
giving
giving them
them the voice and also the confidence,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and a chance to heal in their heart, a chance to heal the trauma from the past.
Yeah, so I mean, amongst the two courses, there's the opportunity to do all of those, and to be able to learn how to do that for yourself, so that you don't ever have to, come and see me again or anybody else for that matter.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. We don't want to see you again.
Cheers for that.
Thanks for the good times. Ciao. So let me ask you then about
Yeah,
being motivated and inspired. So how
yeah.
what techniques do you use to stay motivated and inspired, especially with the expectations and external pressures of being a mom, life in general, etc.
Mhm. Um, so I've got a whole toolbox now, but on any given day, I've got two things that I absolutely do every day. One of those is working with the expansive heart breath and then heart sound. And that is absolutely fundamental at the beginning of my day and at the end of the day. And then the other is a tantra breath, which is all about circulating energy, and then I circulate vibration around the system. Those are the two things that I have to do those every day. If I have time, I then will do a little bit of yoga, or I like to dance. I do like to dance. I mean, it's
Me too.
complete chaos, but I do like to dance.
That's what dancing should be. I'm not sure what all this
All
step one,
after that.
step two, follow my feet is, because I can't do that. I'm all about the free flow, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would love to learn to be able to dance with a partner, but I am also just like, ooh, a bit wiggly. So
Bit of wiggle.
I
Get
do
your
love to
wiggle
dance,
on.
get my little wiggle on. Well, that's what we do in the morning. So we'll, because we get up quite early and blah, blah, blah. So I think, like with my son, we often have a little dance, or, stick on some music and have really good sing in the car and stuff on the way to school and work and everything like that. Um, So those are my go-tos. But if I'm really needing to shift something, then I will go right into the big toolbox, which will include anything from toning to then actually like talking into the system, finding the sound that's going to liberate whatever's stuck, whatever needs to be expressed. An example of that would be something happened at my son's school the other day, and it made me incredibly cross, and I don't get that cross that quickly very much. So it was quite overwhelming for me. So on the way home, I stopped and I found a very quiet space where there was no other human beings, poor animals, and I roared like a lion. I was just like, I need to roar. So I did, and I was just like, got on all fours and just went. So this is like, it's quite way out there for some people,
Well,
but and it was just like echoing around the valley. I was like, oh, that sounds quite good. I'll do another one. So that would be one example, but that's quite an extreme example. A much more subtle example. So working with grief recently, firstly, acknowledging it, allowing it, and just letting everything that's existing in me exist in equanimity without me needing to always go into it. So just acknowledging it's there and holding it. But when I was actually decided to work with grief, it was not what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to have a really like big sob, but actually it was just really, really tender sound for my heart, and finding the right sound. And it was a completely different sound. I've never made it before, and I may never make it again. But it just, it's just what was needed to go into this section and calm it down a bit. It was like a healing balm,
Right.
And at that point, it just sort of expanded and just went. Whew. I was like, oh, okay. The grief may come again because grief comes in waves, but that particular wave was able to, just do its funky thing.
Fascinating, right? It's fascinating, really. It is, honestly, what you're talking about. I mean, I knew a little about sound healing, probably just the basics, and you've really opened my mind to lots of things today, Laura.
Well, it's vibrancy, isn't it? And most
It's
people,
just
not all people
lovely.
want to be vibrant, but most people want to feel vibrant.
Well, we've
Um,
all got the small toolkits. We've all got the toolkits of, how do you, in a moment of stress, you go for a walk, you take a bath, you find some time for you. But really, we don't explore sound enough. I mean, there's quite often I go to sleep with a frequency, like
yeah,
a night meditation, especially if I'm pretty stressed, I've had a bad, everybody has them, and I just want to calm my nerves, reset my system. So I'll just listen to a frequency sound. Doesn't necessarily need to be anybody talking me through a meditation, but
yes,
it's just the sound for that I need right that moment. And I actually check, because I change it every time. It
yeah,
depends what I need. But I think we underestimate,
yeah.
right, just how sound can heal us.
Oh, absolutely. And I've got a cat for that. He's amazing. He's called Merlin, and he just turns up when he's needed, and the rest of the time he's very happy doing his own thing. Um, and I haven't seen him for ages. Haven't seen him for ages, and then he's like, "Hey, Mum, I'm just going to sit on your chest for a bit and purr." And then he'll feel it shift, and he'll just kind of change the tone of his purr, which is what they do. They're incredible creatures.
Yeah, they are. I've got two boys, and they do exactly the same. They always know when,
Yeah,
and they're mountain cats because I live on the mountain, so they're outside and they just come and
love.
go. But they come when, it's amazing how they
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 come
they
when they're
just
needed,
know,
right?
they
Yeah,
feel.
they're just
Yeah,
gods.
yeah, they comfort. Yeah, they come and comfort us. Um, what's the most unexpected benefit that you've gained from this journey?
I wondered if you were going to ask me that. Ah, the ability to be really peaceful with knowing myself in all situations. And I feel really, really humbled by the experience. It's the whole, people kind of go on about we are one, and it's absolutely true, the oneness of everything. And it's like living with that permanently inside me. It's never out of reach anymore. and I'm not looking for it anymore. It's there. I might choose not to look at it and go for the big fat drama and talk in, someone's ear off for hours about something really boring. but that's one thing that I always hoped for, but I never expected. And then one day it was just there.
Wow. Okay, I'd like to finish this interview with 2 questions I ask all my guests. But what's one piece of advice you wish you'd gotten earlier on your journey?
Listen to the heart, always.
Nice. And what do you hope your story will inspire in other women who are listening today? Whenever they're listening.
If you're if you're somebody that is looking to find lasting, abiding peace, and you're interested in using your sound, I would love for you to begin to experiment with using sound, whether that's with me or somebody else, whatever. It's profound, and it's so simple, and it's not going to go away, and it's yours. It's your sound. You get to you get to choose. You get to choose who you are, what you feel like inside at any given moment, and you can heal yourself, and you can find that incredible oneness that allows you to live an amazing, vibrant life.
Wow, beautifully said. A million thanks to Laura for joining us today. Thanks to our audience for hanging out with us. We hope you found it inspiring and empowering. For more information on how to join my ever-growing Passionista Society membership, or be a guest speaker on this podcast, or to work with either of us, all the information will be below. And until next time, this is Beth and Laura signing out.
Thanks so much, Beth.